calls us to awaken him. How will he find us when he comes?
Awake and ready.
And when he asks us to dedicate ourselves more perfectly, how will he find us?
Awake and ready.
Let's pray together. Heavenly Father,
Heavenly Father,
Divine Mother,
Divine Mother,
Friend, beloved God,
Friend, beloved God,
Jesus Christ,
Jesus Christ,
Babaji Krishna,
Babaji Krishna,
Lahiri Mashai,
Lahiri Mashai,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
Swami Shri Yukteswar,
beloved Guru,
beloved Guru,
Paramahansa Yogananda,
Paramahansa Yogananda,
saints of all religions,
saints of all religions,
we humbly bow before thee.
we humbly bow before thee.
We offer our lives
We offer our lives
into thy light.
into thy light.
Guide us home to thee,
Guide us home to thee,
our true home in thee.
our true home in thee.
Oh, peace.
Peace.
Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated.
Blessed, blessed, the life that is given to God. Blessed, blessed, the ways where his feet have trod. All the joys that human heart can know, may his love on you bestow. May all dangers from your path be moved, all delusion by his truth disproved. Blessed, blessed, the life that is given to God. Blessed, blessed, the heart open to his love. Blessed, blessed, the light that shines from above. All the wealth for which men ever scheme, all the beauty ever dream, all the gains for which men sigh and moan, will be harvested in God alone. Blessed, blessed, the heart open to his love.
Continue now with your eyes closed. And with a meditative focus, please listen to these words on the quality of non-injury from Affirmation to Self-Healing by Swami Ananda. Non-injury is a fundamental rule in the spiritual life. It means primarily an attitude of mind. Outwardly, one cannot avoid doing a certain amount of injury. For example, to flying insects when driving one's car. The harm one does, however, by wishing harm to others, hurts not only them, but even more especially oneself. Spiritually, a harmful attitude separates one from the harmony and openness of life. Non-injury, on the other hand, embraces that oneness and is in turn sustained by it. Non-injury is a powerful force for victory, for it enlists cooperation from the very universe, whereas harmfulness incites endless opposition. I invite you to join me now in repeating this affirmation, first out loud with vigor and strength. I send out the rain of blessings to all.
I send out the rain of
That love be nourished in hearts.
That love be nourished in hearts.
That heretofore have known only hate.
That heretofore have known only hate.
Now in a normal speaking voice, I send out the rain of blessings to all.
I send out the rain of blessings to all.
That love be nourished in hearts.
That love be nourished in hearts.
That heretofore have known only hate.
That heretofore have known only hate.
Now whispering, I deepen your concentration. I send out the rain of blessings to all. That love be nourished in hearts. That heretofore have known only hate. I'm mentally silent, only taking it deep into the subconscious. I send out the rain of blessings to all. That love be nourished in hearts. That heretofore have known only hate. And finally, focusing at the spiritual eye, drawing the superconscious, feel the vibration and consciousness behind these words again mentally, deep within. I send out the rain of blessings to all. That love be nourished in hearts that heretofore have known only hate. Now silently, mentally, follow this prayer with me. Divine Mother, when others seek to hurt me, give me the wisdom to see that the victory lies in blessing them, not in revenge. If I respond with anger, the loss will be mine, even if mine also is the outward victory, for inwardly I will have been hurt indeed. But if I return blessings for their blows, I shall remain ever safe within the impregnable walls of my inner peace. Om. Peace. Amen. Welcome everyone to the Ananda Sunday service, especially to those that are here for the first time. This is Nayaswami Parvati, and I am Nayaswami Pranaba. And we currently live up at Ananda Village outside of Nevada City in Northern California. And it's our joy to spend this time with you. I'd like to read to you from Rays of the One Light, with commentaries on the Bible and Bhagavad Gita written by Swami Ananda. This week's topic is, do you need a guru? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teaching of Paramahansa Yogananda. Many people scoff at the idea of having a guru. True to human nature generally, they make a virtue of their scoffing. I am responsible for what I do, they announce. Responsible for my mistakes as well as for my victories. What would I ever learn if I handed over my development to someone else? To depend on another for guidance would be an act of spiritual cowardice. It would be understandable for someone gifted with some true ability, for instance with words, to insist on doing his crossword puzzle himself without letting anyone else help him. But supposing even in such trivial matters, he had no such gift, what virtue would there be in refusing to learn? For that matter, moreover, where do our gifts come from? They are not a native ability. Still, crossword puzzles are hardly an important challenge. What if a person wanted to do something daring, to climb a cliff for instance, but refused to study the art of mountain climbing? He would climb at the risk of his life. And how much more is risk than physical life in the great adventure of the divine search, where the risk is to salvation itself? Where is the sacrifice in seeking guidance? Even a mountain guide wouldn't presume to do one's climbing for one. His purpose would be only to help the neophyte to climb safely. To have a wise guru is not a sign of weakness, but of plain common sense. All the saints, aware as they are of the hazards of the adventure, agree on the importance of having a guide or guru. And these are the heroes speaking, not cowards or spiritual weaklings. Jesus emphasized the importance of having a teacher by asking John to baptize him. In the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 3, we read of his coming to John. Thus Jesus said to John, "It becometh us to fulfill all righteousness." In the Bhagavad Gita, in the 4th chapter, Krishna says, "Open thyself to those who attain wisdom. They will be thy teachers. Ask questions of them, both verbally and mentally. Serve them faithfully and with devotion." How is the devotee to recognize one who has attained wisdom? The Bhagavad Gita gives us this inspiring description of a sage. "By this sign he is known, being of equal grace to comrades, friends, chance-comers, strangers, lovers, enemies, aliens, and kinsmen, loving all alike, evil or good." Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind.
Also would like to welcome everyone, and I'll read from Whispers from Eternity, Yogananda's Book of Answered Prayers. Demand to set fire to the forest of darkness. I built a fire of devotion in the dark forest of delusion. Alas, the fire only smoldered. Then thou didst come and set fire to a few of my frailties. That fire quickly spread, consuming the bushes of my prickly desires, my tall, towering vanities, and the thick underbrush of my arrogance. The whole forest of my darkness is blazing, and I behold only thy light shining everywhere. I thank thee, Father, for thy help. Help me thus always. Let me open a path of light for all to follow. So the question of do you need a guru is a good one. And Swami Kriyananda, when he was in India, a number of you may know this, but he was asked this question in an interview by one of the Indian publications. And the man said, do you need a guru? And Swami Kriyananda surprised everyone in the room by saying, no, why would you need a guru? What do you want a guru for? Unless you come to the point where you want to find God. Then you need a guru. So, you know, it's common sense, but in America and in the West generally, it's becoming a little more common, but it hasn't been until recently common sense that, of course, you need a guru if you want to really progress spiritually. And for all of us, that question comes up and needs to be answered in a way that makes sense to us, where we are at the time we ask it. And so the guru and the guru-disciple relationship, it's always been interesting to me, and we all started kind of noticing this, that in the autobiography of a yogi, which has been read by millions of people worldwide, Yogananda begins the book by saying, and I'm not going to quote it verbatim because I've looked at it in a while, but the India is known for the understanding of the disciple-guru relationship and the understanding of the deep verities, the deep truths of life. So in other words, if you want to know those deep verities, those deep truths, the concomitant relationship that goes with that understanding that you want to know that is the disciple-guru relationship. And so it's something that's very important to get a handle on, the guru. And you know, I was thinking, it's a relationship that you develop with the guru. And we were talking with various people over these last 3 or 4 days about relationships and, you know, different ways, friendship and, you know, men and women and all of that, marriage. But But really, the relationship with the Guru is the deepest friendship that you will ever have, because it's a friendship of your soul with his soul. It's a friendship that he comes. The Guru only will come, as we say in the purification, and isn't it interesting in the purification ceremony that happens right before this, is that that ceremony doesn't start until the person coming up wants it to start. So the person coming up for purification is for joy, by the way. It's for freedom, inner freedom. But the person coming up wanting that has to start that ceremony by saying, I seek purification by the grace of God. I want that, in other words. I'm seeking it. And then the minister who acts as a channel for our gurus says, the master says, open your heart to me, and I will enter and take charge of your life. And then we pray with that person, we bless them on the heart, again, as a channel for the Guru's grace, the Guru's power coming to your heart. And then at the end we say, by the grace of our masters, you are free. And Yogananda, in one of his talks, he said, grace, we all live by grace. There's no other way we can live. We would die in a moment if it wasn't for God's grace. Where do we get the air to breathe? How does our body function at all, really, without the grace of God? Because God created everything. But that special relationship with the Guru really comes into our consciousness when we've closed a lot of other doors in our lives. A lot of other options become off the table. And only off the table, not because somebody said they should be, but because we tried them and they did not work. So we open the door of relationships, we open the door of business, we open the door of professional life, we open the door of having a house, of having the car, of having, just whatever Maya, delusion, duality will present to us, and say, well, what about this? What about this? This option looks pretty good. And we have a little joke that Catherine Kairavi and I have with each other, where we say, maybe this part of delusion will actually work. And then we laugh and say, no, it really doesn't. It's always disappointing. It looks so alluring. It looks like technology is going to solve all of our problems. But it doesn't. And why, if it's going to solve all of our problems in the midst of a tsunami of technology that we're all being forced to engage in and want to engage in, why are so many people in depression? Why are so many people feeling empty inside? Because we don't turn inwardly. There's nothing wrong with technology, and there's nothing wrong with relationships and professions and owning things. Nothing wrong with any of that. But we always have to understand where our power, where our fulfillment really lies. And I'm pointing here because the heart is where that really begins. We must go back inside, and we must begin to explore who we really are. And isn't it amazing today, with all of the knowledge we think we have, that nobody's talking about, who am I? Who am I? That's a real basic question. And nobody's asking that question. And I'm using very broad brushes here. Nobody, meaning it's not generally where people are looking. They're not looking inside. And until we begin to do that and start a spiritual journey in some way or another, we will never be satisfied. And Swami used to tell this joke, and it's a very, very good one, of the man who was in the army. World War II, he's in the army, and he's really hoping to get out of the army before anything bad happens. And so he starts just looking under pieces of paper around him with his friends there, and he's just ignoring everything and picking up pieces of paper. And finally they all say, okay, send him to the psychiatrist. So he goes to the psychiatrist. And in the psychiatrist's office, he continues doing this odd behavior, just looking up and picking up pieces of paper and saying, well, this isn't it. No, this isn't it. And so the psychiatrist can't even engage with him to talk. And so at a certain point, the psychiatrist says, okay, you know, he writes out the F1, I think it is, whatever it is, the paper, you know, and he puts it on the desk, and the man picks it up and he says, this is it. And so he played the game to get out, he got out. But you know, that really is us. This isn't it. Oh, well, let me try. No, this isn't it. We're looking, and we know once we engage in it and try it, that it isn't it. But that engaging and trying can be a lot of pain and many, many lifetimes of searching until we come to the place where we've really closed a lot of the doors in our lives. And it's not that we don't engage in what those doors represent, but we know they're not going to bring us to fulfillment. And at that point, because your heart hurts, because your heart says there has got to be something more. I wouldn't have this desire if it weren't able to be fulfilled. And I'm saying the heart, but we're really talking about the soul that is a spark of the divine. And so that's why we keep figuring out that, well, maybe this will work. Maybe this part of delusion will actually work, you know, and it doesn't. And so when we come to that place, it's a very poignant and particular time in our lives when we come to that place, because our energy at that moment and our understanding can either go way down and we can get real depressed about life, or it can, if we understand, we can choose a way to start to begin to go up and go toward where we find the meaning of life and the meaning of our soul's connection with that divine. You know, we sang that chant before a service. We were sitting in there and we were hearing everybody sing it. Rise, O my soul, in freedom, nothing to fear anymore. And you want that. I mean, that was a really vigorous, happening chant because we all want that. We know that's possible. But then we have to turn around and make that practical. How do we actually do that? And the longing of the soul for that reality. Rise, O my soul, in freedom, nothing to fear anymore. And that will actually be our reality, our living reality every day. That's the place where when that longing is strong enough, and just so that we're all understanding, it takes several lifetimes at least of that kind of longing for the Guru to appear in your life. In other words, we've spent millions of lifetimes not caring, not wanting. I can do it myself, thank you. And, you know, just that kind of attitude, the pride, the arrogance, the ignorance. And so the Guru really is looking for how sincere is that calling from that soul. And that calling also goes out not only from individual souls, but in our time it's gone out as a huge magnetic calling to God. Please send someone in this time of tremendous change and chaos and seeming dissolution to no avail. Send someone. We know there's more. And so that's when the Guru comes. That's when Yogananda came to America, 1920, and traveled all over the country. He went everywhere. You read about where he went. He was in St. Louis. He was in Alaska. He was in Seattle, Portland, and San Francisco. He came to LA. But he was everywhere where he felt there was opening to what he had to bring, which was the light of God and the way to find that light and make it your own. Yogananda also had a phrase. He said, each soul must individually make love to God. And it's like, it's not enough for that group thing happening, but we have to really understand that it's really us and God. In the end, it's us and God. You know, when you see someone die, it's just them and God. It's really, that's what's happening. And so for us, even during our lifetimes, we have to understand, how do we do that? And so how do we individually make love to God? What is the way to do that? And the Guru comes, and he is inside. As we invite him in, as we open our hearts to him, he can come in and take charge of our lives and help us as we're open, not only for the first time, but every time after that, to really listening for the Guru's guidance within. And it's called a process of attunement, attuning to the Guru. What does the Guru represent? And this example is really wonderful, because we think, now wait a minute, this is another person. How does this work? Is this real? Until we go for quite a ways along the path and really experience that. But the Guru is a magnet. He's somebody, a soul that totally has realized the divine, one with that divine, his consciousness. And the consciousness of that Guru, if we want that, we place ourselves next to that magnet. And we're magnets too. We just have our molecules going in all kinds of directions and blocking everything that we're trying to do. And understandably so. But if we place ourselves little by little by little, closer and closer to that magnet of the Guru, that the Guru offers us, the magnetic pull of the divine, and how to understand that, how to know how to get there, how to walk toward that divine in our lives. How do we do that? The Guru shows us how to do that. And he'll give us various ways. He'll give us opportunities outward through friends and family. He'll give us opportunities through our Guru Bhais if we become a disciple. He'll give us opportunities in our business life, in our family life, if we're listening. If we listen, those opportunities come. And also, when we really want that divine life, no matter where we are, it can be in the middle of Los Angeles, it can be in the middle of the desert. God is everywhere and in everything. And so that ability to come to us where we are is absolute. But we have to really want that. And as we really want that, we draw that grace of the Guru, the power. Grace means power. We draw the grace to become more enlightened, more free, to know what to do. And as we do that, then we become not merged in the Guru, but we become magnetized. And we become also a channel for that, for the ability to do that. Now, certain questions come up. One is, Yogananda's not in his body anymore. Yogananda died many years ago. He's dead. So what do you have to say to me about that? So I will tell you what a great saint said to a great disciple, eventually became a great disciple, about that issue. And many of you have, a number of you may have heard this, but it's a very, very good one to keep in mind. So Swami Turiyananda, who was Brother Ananda in SRF for many years, originally found out about Yogananda, read the autobiography. I believe he was in correspondence even with Swami Kriyananda during his process. But early on, he had deep spiritual karma and deep spiritual experiences of all kinds. But at one point, he was living in Switzerland. I believe that's where he was from. And Swami Ramdas, this is the Indian Swami Ramdas, short, stout. He did a tour from India in the 1950s. And he was touring to share divine love with everyone. That was just his message. So he was very sweet, humble, had lived a deeply spiritual life in India as a sadhu. I mean, he had nothing and all of that. And so he was on this tour. And Swami Ramdas was well known at the time. And so he was in Switzerland, and he was sharing divine love, whatever he was talking about. And Ananda went to see him. And after the talk, I believe he was blessing people, and he blessed Ananda, and he passed out. That's my understanding. He passed out and had to be carried out. And so, this was a big deal for Ananda because he was searching spiritually, and he had read about Yogananda, I believe, at that time also. So anyway, the next day he came back, and he said, "You must be my guru." And Swami Ramdas just smiled, and he said, "I'm not your guru, Yogananda's your guru." And Ananda, being very blunt, said, "But Yogananda's dead." And Swami Ramdas said, "No, you're dead. Yogananda's alive." We just, we're so in delusion. We think somebody loses their body, but an avatar loses their body. That isn't so. So what? The grace is still there. And so Yogananda is alive through his disciples. He's alive for those who are deeply attuned to his consciousness. And that is very vibrant. People today, millions of them, are still reading the autobiography and coming on this path, taking Kriya Yoga, and attuning to the consciousness of Yogananda. Now, it is needed to have people that are in the body to help that happen. And so disciples, Swami Kriyananda, other direct disciples, now disciples of those disciples, that again are deeply seeking that attunement, keep that grace, that power flowing. And so for all of us, our job is, if we're interested, if you've come to that point in your life, if this is new to you, then great. You're just learning something about it, something to think about. All of the things spiritually, it's not like, oh, I didn't, and now I do, black and white. No, it's a progression. It's an unfolding process within you that allows you to, little by little, step into a deepening spiritual life, and when you're ready for it, a deepening spiritual commitment with guru-disciple relationship. But it's unfolding, and it's something that must be taken by each person as they experience it, when they are ready for it, and what they're ready for. So don't feel pushed by any of this. It's only about information and clarity. But when you come to the point where you want more, then more is available. And so at that point, that guru-disciple relationship, we have a discipleship ceremony, that can happen. Kriya Yoga is a very intimate way and teaching of meditation to be able to attune every day. Again, I was saying yesterday, when I came on this path, my big thing was, yeah, it's all fine, but what do I do? Give me what I can do to make this real to me. And so one person, we recently had ceremony up at Ananda Village to dedicate our new Temple of Light there, and we had a panel of different religious speakers come. And one of the men was Judaism, And he said, yes, yes, all of this, it's all wonderful. He said, but most people aren't willing to do the work. And it's like, yeah, so it's up to us how much and when. Timing is everything. If there is an opening for you and you feel like, wow, this is something I'm really interested in, it's important to pursue that, because those openings, they also close back over, and then we go about our lives and we wonder, oh, now, wasn't I interested in something like that a while ago? But the opening isn't maybe as clear again. But when those openings are there, it's important to pursue them, because it will allow us to really prove to ourselves what the spiritual life is about, and the depth that we can have, and the fact that we can ourselves choose to be happy, choose to have joy, choose to go in the direction of more and more bliss in our lives. The reading, when it talks about the qualities that are the things to look for in a spiritual teacher, in the guru, whoever it is, but those spiritual qualities, let me actually by this sign is he known. And this can apply at various levels. So spiritual teacher, guru, anyway, like that. By this sign is he known, being of equal grace to comrades, friends, chance comers, strangers, lovers, enemies, aliens, and kinsmen, loving all alike, evil or good. And that kind of consciousness is the consciousness of the Guru. And I experienced that consciousness in Swami Ananda. I never saw him be angry with people and that kind of thing. But in the Gita also, there's another phrase, and it's yet hard the wise Mahatma is to find, that one who says, all is Vasudeva, all is God. And so those are like high things to be aware of and to shoot for, but we're part of that kind of consciousness. It's just covered over right now. And we have to do the work. It may take a while, but we know, we can feel we're moving in the right direction. And that relationship with the Guru, as we develop it, meaning we open to it inwardly, we open to it by following intuitions that we feel are from the Guru, and actually making changes in our lives, we open to that. As we open, then more grace, more power can come in. It's like someone trying to give you a gift and you say, no, I don't want it right now. And so you say, okay, fine, I'll give it to someone else. But the next time you may say, oh, thank you very much, I appreciate that. You take it, you make an opening. And that opening allows more energy to flow. So as we're developing that relationship with the Guru, which is the deepest relationship we will ever develop, it's a friendship, it's a love, it's a joy. And it's very tangible, very real. But it's something that, as much energy as we put into it, and as open as we are to it, then that's how much it can happen. And it just continues to happen. And until, Swami Kriyananda wrote, and I'll close with this, he wrote a very wonderful commentary in the Bhagavad Gita, essence of the Bhagavad Gita, where he said, all of these things, feeling the Guru's blessings with you outwardly, knowing that the Guru has been pleased with you, all of that kind of thing. He said, all of these things will eventually come to the sincere disciple, but they don't come until you find, well, and not only they don't come, but sometimes they're put off because we need to keep doing. And as we keep doing, we eventually come to the state of doing, doer, and thing done is one, where we have no more questions, no more longings, because we've merged in that highest state. It's climbing, climber, thing climbed as one. Doing, doer, thing done as one. And so at that point we have no more questions, we have no more longings, because we're one with what? Sat Chit Ananda. Ever existing, ever conscious, ever new bliss. All the questions are answered.